It is my honor, and I want to make sure the media catches that. It is my honor to introduce to you the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. The men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Thank you very much. This is a big crowd of people. Well, thank you very much, and I'm thrilled to be back with so many great American patriots, which is exactly what you are, who stand for our freedom, vote for our values, and pray to Almighty God. I want to thank a very good friend and one of the conservative movement's finest leader. He really is a leader in many ways. Tony Perkins, he's done a fantastic job. Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. Let's also express our gratitude to the entire team at the Family Research Council for their 4 decades of outstanding work in defense of the American family and culture and God. And thanks as well to Representatives Jim Banks. By the way, Jim is running for the Senate, as you know, from a great place, Indiana. And he's essentially, you have anybody running? Where's Jim? I think he's not got anybody even wants to take him on. He's going to get it without a fight. Can you imagine? Where is Jim? Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. He's unopposed. I haven't even heard about that for a long time, especially from Indiana. But he's fantastic. And Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie, would you stand up, please? Ronnie Jackson. He's a doctor. He's an admiral. And he's a congressman. Where's Ronnie? We love Ronnie. Where is he? See? And he just, you didn't get a very good seat tonight. What's going on? He's fantastic. So he's like a highly respected in the military, an admiral. He was my White House doctor. He said, I'm the healthiest president in history. He said, that if I didn't eat junk food so much, I would have lived 200 years, he was projecting. But he was a great doctor and a great admiral, and now he's a great congressman from Texas, and he won his race by 49 points. That's pretty good. And we love Ronnie. Ronnie, thank you very much for being here. And a very special woman, and a very brilliant woman. She helped so much with everything I've done. I think most of you would hear, she's very shy. She doesn't like being on television or anything like that. She's a shy person. Kellyanne Conway. Where's Kellyanne? Where is Kellyanne? She's so incredible. Thank you, Kellyanne. She's a great woman, actually. We had an incredible campaign. 2016, we had an incredible campaign in 2020. What the hell happened there? We got more votes than any sitting president in history. Can you imagine? More votes than any sitting president by close to 12 million. I was told if we got 63 million, which we got at 2016, you can't lose. It's just impossible. And we topped it by millions, but we're going to have the most successful election ever coming up, and we're going to do things that nobody thought possible. Because 1 year from now, each of you will vote in the most important election of your lifetimes. Your most important. This is going to be the most important. This election will decide whether America will be ruled by Marxists, fascists, communist tyrants who want to smash the Judeo-Christian heritage, or whether America will be saved by God-fearing, freedom-loving patriots like all of the people in this room. And if we stand together in this fight, we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden if he runs. Is he going to make it to the starting gate? Every time I watch him do so badly, I say, oh, this is not good. No, I want him to do much better than he's doing, because I don't know if he's going to make it. But we're going to take back our country. We're going to take back our culture, and we're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. And I come here tonight bearing a very simple message. No president has ever fought for Christians as hard as I have, and I will keep on fighting for Christians as hard as I can for 4 more years in the White House, and we will do things that nobody has ever been able to do. Just think of what we already achieved with the help of many of the great people in this room. I know so many of you. We did more to uphold religious liberty than any administration in history, according to everybody. I fearlessly protected the religious freedoms of doctors, nurses, teachers, and faith groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. I blocked the IRS from using the Johnson Amendment to interfere with pastors' freedom of speech. Very important. Very important. I stopped Barack Hussein Obama's hateful and bigoted assault on faith-based adoption and foster care services, and I restored your right to help those beautiful children find a loving family. I took historic action to defend the religious liberty of students in public schools and on college campuses, so important. And I was the first president to convene a meeting at the United Nations to end religious persecution worldwide. We did that. As president, thank you very much. As president, I stood proudly with our friend and ally, the State of Israel. I kept my promise, recognized Israel's eternal capital, and opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. And I got the embassy built. They were starting to raise funds and do the funding, and they said it was going to cost $2 billion. And I said, $2 billion? And I told my people, do you have a site? We are the United States, and we have sites all over the place. And real estate, because I see a couple of my great real estate friends right here. And I said, you have a site that's a great site, much better than the one that they wanted to buy for a tremendous amount of money, way overpaying. That man, whoever owned that site, does not like me very much. He was going to make a fortune. And they came back to me the following day and said, yes, sir, we do have a site. We have a great site. Is there a building on it? Yes, there is. It's abandoned, but it's a very strong building, structurally good. And I took that building and I said, I called off everything. I had my people go and check it. I said, how much would it cost to rebuild that building and make it the embassy? They said, about $400,000. That's slightly less than $2 billion, right? And it's the first time I've ever said this in business. I said, that sounds too cheap. It's usually that's too expensive. I said, that sounds too cheap. That's too inexpensive. So let's make it a little bit more. Let's spend a little bit more. We'll make it $500,000. And we got it built for $500,000, and we used Jerusalem stone. Jerusalem stone is a very rare and beautiful stone, unless you're in Jerusalem. And a friend of mine has office space at a beautiful office building in New York, and every time I walk in, he tells me about, this is Jerusalem stone. Look, the wall opposite the elevator. And he's so proud of the Jerusalem stone. He said, I paid a fortune for it. He's told me that every time I walk in, he tells me about Jerusalem stone. So what I did is I said, do you think we could do the whole building in Jerusalem stone? Absolutely. We have so much Jerusalem stone here. I said, is it expensive? They said, not at all. It's cheap as you can imagine. And we did it in Jerusalem stone, and it is a truly beautiful embassy, and there's no reason for them ever to do anything else because it's a beauty and it's the best location there is in Jerusalem, and it was a great honor. So we not only designated, we also got it built, and built many years ahead of schedule. So it was, and we saved approximately $2 billion, so that was okay. But I also recognized they were working on this for 58 years. I recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, you know that, and took care of that. I was done. 52 years they worked on it. Planes would come in every season, planes that have meetings that would last for 2 days, and then they'd leave, nothing would happen. I got it done in about 12 minutes. And I withdrew the United States from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. Disaster. And here at home, we totally transformed the federal judiciary, appointing nearly 300 judges to interpret the law and the Constitution as written. Very big thing. Together, all of us, we withstood vicious attacks to confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And I'm also very proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Very proud. Thank you. From my very first day in office, I took action to protect the unborn. I reinstated the Mexico City policy. You know what that is? Stopped taxpayer funding for the abortion industrial complex, which is what it's called. And I was the first sitting president to ever attend the March for Life rally right here in Washington, D.C. They all said they're going, but they never got there. 1 year ago, in a victory that conservatives had been seeking for exactly 50 years, those Supreme Court justices, together with others on the court, ruled to end the moral and constitutional atrocity known as Roe v. Wade. Thank you very much. So now pro-lifers have a tremendous power to negotiate, which they didn't have at all before the ruling. They had no power. They could do anything they wanted to the unborn. No power. You had nothing. You had no seat at the table. This moves the issue back to the states, which all legal scholars wanted. On both sides, they wanted it to go back to the states. And like President Ronald Reagan before me, I support the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And again, that's a decision that you're going to have to make for yourself, and you have to go by your heart and what you feel. But I do, and I will say politically, it's a very tough decision for some people, but very, very hard on elections. Very, very hard. This was, we had midterms, and this was an issue. You know, they are the radical ones. We are not the radical ones. They are the radical ones. Remember, the Democrats are the people that will do things that nobody thought anybody would ever do. They'll kill babies in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month, and they'll even kill babies in some cases after birth. They are the radicals. We're not doing that. They're doing that. And I said to politicians, they just don't know how to talk about this issue. It's a complex issue, but they don't know how to talk about it. And if they don't speak about it correctly, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. And they turned it around, the Democrats mostly. They turned it around and put it on us, and we have to take that issue. And now, really, for the first time, we have to run very strongly, but we have to know how to speak. I watch some of these politicians speaking, and it's so bad. They don't understand what it is that they're talking about, and they lost a lot of elections, and we can't let that happen. This was a great victory. But you have to be able to talk, and you have to say exactly that. They are a group of people that are willing to do things that nobody thought ever would be acceptable. In other countries, many other countries, it's not acceptable. Just this week, Kamala Harris, did you ever hear of her? She refused 7 times in a row to say that she opposes abortion on demand. She refused to say it right up until the moment of birth. And again, in some cases, you have after birth. It's just murder. After birth. And you have, in some cases, legislation. If you remember the former governor of Virginia, he got up. Michael Jackson, remember his wife said he was going to do, he got into a lot of trouble, and he was going to imitate Michael Jackson moonwalking. And his wife said, no, don't do it. And she saved him a great embarrassment. But he talked about the baby is born, and after the baby is born, we talk to the mother, and we make a decision on what to do. This is after the baby is born. And people have to understand what's going on. But now you have this tremendous power to negotiate something, and something will be negotiated because we have to bring our country together on this issue. Something's going to happen. We had to get rid of that. We did it from many standpoints, including every single scholar. Everybody wanted it to go back to the states. And now we can win elections on this issue. But it's very delicate, and explaining it properly is extremely important. Many politicians who are pro-life do not know how to properly discuss a topic which is so important to the people in this room and so important to millions and millions of people in our country. You know, that poll's 51-49, and it goes both ways. It's been that way for many years. Sometimes pro-life, it's 51, sometimes it's 49, but it's been this way for, there are other issues, by the way, that haven't been. They started off there, but now they're issues that have been settled. But it's 51-49, and it's been that way for many, many years. We gave them this incredible power to negotiate a great deal. We gave people representing us, and maybe that will be me, but we gave people representing us an incredible power to do something that's really a fantastic thing if we can do this. And we're going to get it done. And you all know what I mean. Before the termination of Roe v. Wade, there was just no power, no rights, no anything. So we're going to do something because done properly, our nation, after 52 years, can finally come together. It's a very important thing for so many different views. And just in finishing on that, and I think it's it's something we have to say, and something has to be said. We have to know how to deal with that issue properly. And again, you have to follow your heart. You have to follow your beliefs. You have to follow God. But it's an issue that we have to get resolved in our country. In another great victory for our movement last year, the Supreme Court issued a landmark decision protecting school prayer. So many great rulings. School prayer. And Just a few months ago, the justices also ruled to do something that I never thought you'd see ever. You know, we're a merit-based country, and they put forward a decision where we have merit-based education again, so that if you are the hardest working student and if you have all A's and you did well on your boards or whatever you have to do to get into school, somebody with C's and C pluses and B's aren't going to be taking your place. It's such an incredible victory. Most people thought that was not something that was going to get done, and it got done because we were able to appoint 3 people on top of some great people that are already on the Supreme Court. So every promise I made to Christians as a candidate, I delivered, and in many cases delivered much more than the promises I made. So it's an honor. Through 4 magnificent years, I was proud to be your relentless champion for freedom, for life, for liberty, and for the great biblical traditions of Western civilization. And that's what it is. These are great, great traditions. I was honored to get up every single day and do battle on your behalf. Oh, I did battle. You probably read about some of those battles. I'm still doing battle, doing more battle than anybody even understands. But I wanted to and had to stand up to the communists, the Marxists, the atheists, and the evil and demonic forces that want to destroy our country. They're destroying our country. I took their fire and I did it gladly. I'm protecting the people in this room. I'm protecting the people of this nation. And I have to tell you, it's not easy, but it's something that's such an honor to be doing. It's no wonder. Thank you. It's no wonder that this very sinister opposition is now tearing down every law and institution to try and stop us from vanquishing them from power forever. As you know, crooked Joe Biden and the radical left thugs who have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, and leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what, you take a look at Obama and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country was very divided. And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. We beat Hillary Clinton. Now, you know, I used to call her Crooked Hillary. I'd say Crooked Hillary, but I took that name away from her. That was a great day. About 2 months ago, I said, you know what? Because I don't like using names on people, doubles. I think we have a lot of words out there. So now I call her Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. And rather than Sleepy Joe, we call him Crooked Joe because it's a very appropriate name. So that was a good day for Hillary. I think she was very happy with it. But what they're doing is high-level election interference. That's what it is. They're interfering with our elections, just like they stuff ballot boxes, just like they do so many other things, like the 51 people that said it was Russia disinformation. These people were very dishonest when they did that and when they said that. Or just like Twitter with FBI, they call it Twitter files, and so many other things. And it's happening for a single reason, because I'm the only candidate that they do not want to run against. And the polls bear this out. All these polls that are coming out today, we're beating Biden by a lot. We're beating DeSanctimonious by a lot. Just last night, Fox has us up. I say us because me is us as far as I'm concerned. Really true. But Fox has us up by almost 50 points on DeSanctimonious, and we're beating Biden by a lot. Ron DeSanctimonious. I endorsed him. He only won because I endorsed him. And then he says, well, I have no comment as to whether or not I'm running. I said, did he say that? That means he's running. Let's go. Let's go get him. And he's fallen like a very badly injured bird from the sky. He's really been hit hard. Harvard-Harris just came out, and they have very similar results. We're leading by 57 points, 55 points, 50 points. We're leading in some by 65 points, leading by 65 points. Nobody's seen anything like it. And a lot of it, you know, I read where people love my policy, but they don't like me. I think they like me. What's not to like? You get the job done. I think they like me. It's not just about policy. You got to have something else, right? But I think they like me, and I think that I love them. I love the people of this country. And they've gone through a lot. This last period of time has been excruciating. In South Carolina, Ron is in 4th place now. I'm leading by 35 points. But, you know, you have a senator, you have a governor running from South Carolina, great state. We're leading by a lot. But Ron has actually dropped to 4th place, and he's dropped to 2nd place in other states. And it's pretty amazing what's happened. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We have religious people. I should not be saying that, right? But religious people want to win. We want to win. And we want to win because we're going to do a great job for the country. We have to finish what we started. But most importantly, in just about all of these polls, that we're beating Biden by a lot. And it was a big story today. A lot of great stories being written. And do you remember in 2016 and 2020, I talk about the polls, but only if I was doing well. If I was doing poorly, I wouldn't talk about it. But we never had a period where we were doing very poorly, I will say that. I wasn't running, or if I wasn't, and if I wasn't running, or if I was in 5th place or 4th place or 3rd place or 10th place, none of this horrible election interference would have happened. It wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be going through any trials and tribulations. I wouldn't have had the mugshot. I wouldn't have needed it. That shot has been something, hasn't it? They have sold more T-shirts than any T-shirt ever in history. They're all over the place. I see pictures of people that are walking the streets of New York. Even, I must say, some of the illegal immigrants that came in, they've got my mugshot on. That thing, I don't know how they make these things so quickly, but they do. But we've become very much a banana republic with what they're doing to our country. We're like a banana republic. We're like a 3rd world country. We did great in 2016 and we won. We did much better in 2020 than we did in 2016. And as I said, getting millions and millions more votes than any sitting president. And we are going to do better in 2024 than we've ever done. And I can tell you that there has never been spirit like this. We had unbelievable spirit in 2016. We had more spirit, even more spirit in 2020. We've got many more votes, close to 12 million more votes. It's unheard of. You know, when you think that we set the all-time record for a sitting president. And they told me that 2 great pollsters, Fabrizio and McLaughlin, they told me that if you get 63 million, which is what I got in 2016, if you get that, there's no way you can lose. We got 12 million more and we lost. We didn't lose. It was a rigged election. So they rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. We're not going to be allowing that. Not going to allow it. We'll lose our country. We're not going to have a country. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor because I am being indicted for you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Our great First Lady who's watching. Look at all of the media back here, the fake news. But she's watching. She said, "You're taking a lot of bullets." I said, "That's okay. We're doing it for a great country. We can't lose our country. We're close to losing our country." As an example, today, we had this prosecutor, deranged Jack Smith. Has anyone ever heard of him? I wonder what his name used to be. Jack Smith. Sounds so nice, doesn't it? He's a deranged individual, and he wants to take away my First Amendment rights. They went to court to get an order that I can't speak. Now, you got to understand, I'm the leading candidate by 50 points, and I'm leading Biden by a lot. And they want to see if they can silence me. So the media, the fake news, will ask me a question. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that. How do you think we do in that election? So we're going to have a little bit of a fun with that, I think, because that's a tough one. Can you imagine? So we have somebody weaponizing. We have this incompetent president put somebody in to essentially rig the election just like they did before. And what this does, it sets a tremendously bad precedent, because you look at what's happened with this. Now, if I win, and let's say somebody comes along on the Democrat side and they're looking very strong, I can call my attorney general, I guess. Am I allowed to call him and say, you have to indict him on something? Just find anything. You can indict him for anything you want. Just indict him. And then, for the most part, when you get indicted, you know what you do? Ladies and gentlemen, I have decided to leave office immediately, et cetera, et cetera. I will be spending more time with my family. Do you ever hear that speech? Like hundreds of times. I'm the only one that ever got indicted where my poll numbers went through the roof. What the hell is going on? I'm the only one. It's never happened before. Never happened before. But they want to take away our First Amendment rights. That's going to be an interesting one. But never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones, and they know this, that can stop them. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's what they're doing. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. It's the way it works. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way. I'm in their way. You can tell that pretty easily. The truth is, the radical left is coming after all of us because they know that our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is to our country and to our Creator. And they know that, and we know that. As many of you have heard 2 weeks ago in an outrageous attack on Christians everywhere, the Stalinists and the Biden administration. And I'm not sure it's him because I don't think he knows where the hell he is. It's the people that surround him. They're smart and they're vicious and they're sick. But I'm not even sure it's him. And I don't know if he gets to the gate. I don't know if he's going to get to the starting gate. But these Marxists and Stalinists and the administration got a Washington, D.C. jury to convict 5 pro-life activists who are now facing up to 11 years in prison for simple acts of protest. You read all about it, you hear all about it, and you talk all about it. Under Biden, others are being sentenced to 10, 15, and even 20 years in prison for retribution for their political beliefs, while Antifa and other groups burned down cities like Portland, like Minneapolis. They went into Seattle. What they did in Seattle was they basically took over a big percentage of the city. They kill people, they loot, they plunder, and they go free. The political repression is immoral, and it's very, very un-American, and it's very dangerous for them to be playing that game. To reverse these cruel travesties of justice, tonight I'm announcing that the moment I win the election, I will appoint a special task force to rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who's been unjustly persecuted by the Biden administration. Thank you. Well, you know what's going on better than anybody, so that I can study the situation very quickly and sign their pardons or commutations on day one. I want to sign them on day one. I want to see what's going on. It's a horrible thing that's happening. 22 years, 18 years, 10 years. It's a terrible thing. There's never been a thing like this happen in our country. Never again will the federal government be used to target the religious believers, and that's what they're doing. They're targeting many people, but also, and in particular, religious believers. Americans of faith are not a threat to our country. Americans of faith are the soul of our country. Very important. They're the soul of our country. When I'm reelected, I will totally obliterate the deep. And I'm going to do this. We fired Comey, we fired a lot of these characters from the FBI, but boy, that deep state is deeper than we thought. Then we had COVID come in, and we had a focus on that, and we did a great job on that, as good as it could be, considering nobody knew what it was. The dust from China came in from the Wuhan lab. I said that right from the beginning. It turned out that was right. I took a lot of heat. It didn't come. It came from caves that were 2,000 miles away with bats. Then they blamed Italy. It came from Italy. Then they said they blamed France. They blamed everybody. Then they even blamed the United States, and we wouldn't let them do that. The horrible destruction of lives and the horrible, what this did to the world. $50 trillion in damage, it's estimated. $50 trillion. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. When I'm reelected, I will totally we're going to obliterate the deep state, the corrupt agencies. The corrupt agencies will be defunded, the domestic spying will be halted, the real criminals will be investigated, and the rogue bureaucrats will be escorted right out of these beautiful federal buildings that we own all over the place. But all of that is only the beginning. Here is just some of the agenda that I'll immediately implement when we become the 47th President of the United States. And by the way, bad things happened with the election. But if we win, and I have to say if, I don't want to say when, because they can cheat. If everything's straight, 100%. But they're very, very good at cheating. If we win, this will be the biggest political victory by far in the history of our country, and better than doing it the more traditional way, because they have shown how bad they are. They have shown what a horrible job they did, whether it was in Afghanistan, the way they withdrew, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, or inflation, or the economy, or you can name everything. The woke military. We have a great military, but they're trying to make it woke and destroy it. So many different things. And because of that, I believe that's the reason that we're so popular right now. They like us, they like me, but they really also cannot stand what's happening to our country, what these people are allowing, when millions and millions of people are being allowed to come into our country from prisons and from mental institutions, insane asylums, and terrorists are coming into our country, human traffickers are coming into our country. Millions and millions of people, we have no idea who they are. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I'll get that settled. I know them both very well. It'll be done very quickly. And that war would have never happened had the election not been rigged. That war, all of those thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, that'll be one of the horrible things that you'll be learning. The number of people being killed in that war far greater than what you read. When a city's bombed and buildings are collapsing all over the city, they're collapsing. And then they say 2 people were slightly injured today. No. Thousands of people were killed. The numbers are much worse than anybody has any idea. I'll get it settled immediately. I know them both very well. I will get it settled immediately. It would have never happened had the election been what it should have been. And as the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers. And I was a peacemaker. We got out of Syria. We got out of Iraq. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS. 100% of the ISIS caliphate. I was told it would take years to do. We were fighting them for 20 years. I got it done in 2 months. We got it done very quickly. We have a great military. I go into the story, but we have a little bit of a while to go, and we have a beautiful evening, and we can take our time. But we defeated ISIS. We did something that people said just would take too long, and it won't happen. and we defeated them very soundly. But now they probably start coming back because they see a weak and pathetic administration. Weak and pathetic. I'm the only candidate who can make this promise to you. I will prevent World War III. We're very close to World War III. And this won't be army tanks running against each other and shooting each other. This won't be airplanes flying in the air. These are weapons of mass destruction. These are weapons of destruction that the likes of which nobody has ever seen before. This will be an obliteration of the world, and I will stop that. And we never had a problem. You never read about it until recently. Everything is being done wrong. Everything is being said wrong. They don't know what they're doing. But we're very close to a world war, and if we have a world war, it'll be destruction like nobody's ever seen before, far greater than World War I or World War II, because the weaponry is so powerful, so horrible and powerful. I will stop the disaster known as Bidenomics, which stands for inflation, taxation, submission, and failure. That's what it is. Tremendous inflation. You know, inflation, if you look at it over the years, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and I studied a lot of economies over the years. And when you look at inflation going back hundreds of years, any country that has inflation is a country killer. It destroys countries. You look at what happened with Germany. You look at what happened with numerous countries with rapid inflation, with big inflation. And look at what's happening to us now. You know, inflation is coming back very strong again. You look at the numbers that were just released yesterday. They don't know what to do. It's coming back very strong. I will regain energy independence as we had 3 years ago. And achieve energy dominance as soon as... Look, I mean, we were going to be energy dominant within 7 months. Dominant. We had total energy independence. We were only taking our energy. I was filling up the national reserves, got it full. Then he starts taking it. Now it's at the lowest level it's ever been because he wanted to get it for automobiles so that people would get a little bit cheaper gas so they could try and win an election. That's not what the purpose of that is for war. The purpose for war. And it's almost down. It's almost dry right now. It's never been at a level like this. We'll take care of that, but we will, we were ready to make so much, and we were going to supply oil and gas to Europe at levels like nobody has ever done. And we were in third place. When I took over, we were in third place, and a deep third. We were quite a bit away from Russia, and then Saudi Arabia was at the top. And the day that I left, we were substantially more than Saudi Arabia. And we would have been substantially more than that. We have more than anybody else. We have more liquid gold, beautiful term, because that's what it is. It's gold. And we have it and other countries don't. Think of it. We have more of it than Saudi Arabia. We have more of it than Russia. And we were going to double up, be double the size of what we had just then. And over a period of 2 or 3 years, we were going to be selling so much clean energy, clean gas. We were going to sell so much to Europe and other countries that we were going to start paying off our $35 trillion. It was all set to go, $35 trillion in debt. And we were going to start paying it off. We were going to do further tax reductions. We got you the largest tax reductions in history, if you know that. Bigger than the Ronald Reagan reduction. We got you the biggest regulatory cuts in history. And that's what created the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. You look at the numbers. I watch them today. I was watching Larry Kudlow, and he was comparing us with Biden and with other times and other presidents. And there was nobody close to what we did. We did something that nobody was able to do. You know, we gave big tax cuts, and yet we took in much more revenue. Nobody thought that was possible. We took in much more revenue with the big tax cuts. And companies were now incentivized to bring trillions of dollars back into our country. I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. Ron DeSantis is not going to do that. He fought it. He wanted to fight it. He went after Social Security. Upon my inauguration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration and commence the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable. You don't have to know very much to know. I looked at Tucson, Arizona today. Did you see that? Thousands and thousands of people all over. People walk out of their house, they say, what's happened to our beautiful place? But this is in many towns and cities all over. Look at New York City. But, you see New York, but you don't see other places so much. And it's happening like that. Much worse, actually, much worse. This is not sustainable. No country can sustain it or financially can sustain it. Nobody can possibly sustain something like this. And they're putting young children into schools who don't speak any English, and they're in school. Nobody is there to teach them. They're sitting in class. They don't understand anything that's going on in the school. It's a horrible situation, and it would have never happened. And we had the strongest border in history. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. There's never been a third world country that had a border like this, ever. There's never been anything like it. We built nearly 500 miles of border wall. They like to say we built 57 miles. No, we built over 500. In fact, if you look at the various government statistics, we did a great job. And I had to fight Paul Ryan. I call him Paul Rhino. But I had to fight Paul Rhino, and I had to fight Mitch McConnell, another beauty. And I ended up taking the money out of the military. I said, it's an invasion, I'm sorry. And we built 500 miles of wall, which is what it is. It's an invasion. And then was ready to do another. We had already the wall built, and we were going to add another 200. I wanted to do 5. We did 5. I was going to add another 200. We built it. It was all set. All we had to do was erect it. Very simple. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks. And then we had the election situation, and they took over. And they actually took it away and put it in faraway places. And Texas wanted to buy it and put it up, and they wouldn't sell it to them. And Arizona wanted to buy it and put it up, and they wouldn't sell it to them. But we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. That was an amazing thing. I went to the State Department. I said, Mexico has to do this. They have to do this. And they said, they'll never do it, sir. I said, yes, they will, 100%. And we had a little negotiation with Mexico. And I said to them, listen, if you don't do it. They said, no, we're not going to do it under any circumstances. And I happen to like the president of Mexico, even though he's a socialist, but you can't have everything, right? I like him. He's a good man, but he's a little different than my way of thinking. And I said, no, you're going to do it. And I met with their top representative. And he sort of laughed at me when I said, you're going to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. I said, here's the story. I have in front of me a piece of paper. And the paper says very strongly that on Monday morning at 7 o'clock, you're going to be charged 25% tariffs on all of the cars that you're sending into the United States. They took 32% of our automobile business prior to us getting there. 32%. They send millions of cars in. They said, we're going to tax you 25% and 25% on every other product you sell into the United States. And he said, sir, do you mind if I make a phone call? It'll just take a minute. And he came back 5 minutes later, and he said, sir, we'd be honored to let you have 28,000. It was rather amazing. Rather amazing. And the woman in the State Department, who's actually a very good woman, she has never won any of these things, but she was a good woman. She said, I've never seen anything like that in my life. But we also got remain in Mexico. That means they stay in Mexico. They don't come in, they stay in Mexico. And Biden ended that. And that was not easy to get. And in fact, they went to a judge to have it terminated. And the judge said, you can't do this. You'll destroy our country. He let it stay. He wouldn't do it. But it terminated in 6 months. And it should have never been done. And deported illegal aliens by the tens of thousands. We had MS-13, the meanest gang. They killed 2 young girls with knives, walking to school in Long Island. They killed them with knives. They carved them up because shooting is too quick. They loved using knives. They're sick. And by the way, we have people in ICE and Border Patrol. They're unbelievable. They're patriots. They're incredible. If we didn't have them, this country would be overrun. They don't get enough credit. And they'll run into a nest of, they call them a nest, and they'll run, and you'll see those fists. And I have a lot of friends that are in these front rows, and some of them are tough, but they don't want this job. This is not for them, I will tell you. But these guys are tough and smart and incredible patriots, and it's a very dangerous It's a very dangerous living, but they do an incredible job. We took them out by the thousands and thousands. And, when I first came, I said, no, we have to bring them back to their country of origin. And they said, sir, they won't accept them. Under President Obama, they wouldn't accept them. They would actually put airplanes on the runway so you couldn't land the plane loaded up with gang members and very bad people. Prisoners came into our country. And I said, how much money do we give these countries? Sir, $750 million a year. That's a lot. They said, $750 million. All right, end it immediately. And the next morning, all three called me up separately. Sir, there seems to be a miscommunication. What's the problem? I said, you're not taking back your people that came illegally into our country. We want you to take them back. Sir, we would be honored to take them back. We would love to have MS-13 back in our country, sir. Sir, when will the payments start? It's amazing. I mean, we just don't use the powers that we have. We have tremendous economic powers that we don't use. That includes with China. We took in more money with China than anybody. Nobody has ever even come close. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars with China. They were dumping steel, ruining our steel industry. They were doing things that we shouldn't have done. And I put tariffs of 25 and 50% on them, different products coming in. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And those tariffs are still on, Biden doesn't have the courage. There's so much money coming in. And he shouldn't. I guess they're probably trying to end it, but they're not able to because it's just so powerful, so much, hundreds of billions of dollars. No other president took in 10 cents from China. But I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. And as Jim Caviezel, who's a great guy, you know who he is? The movie Sound of Freedom, he said, God's children are not for sale. Very simply. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Be easy to do. Be easy to do. I will insist on the right of every parent to send their child to the public, private, charter, or religious school of their choice. I will close immediately the Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where our children can be individualized in education. And it'll be done with great love for our children. States will do it much better. We're at the end of every list. I don't know if you see this. Of the top 40 nations, we're always at the end. We spend more money per pupil by double and triple of any other nation, and yet we're at the bottom. We will end this horrible Department of Education. We'll keep a few people there just to make sure they're guaranteeing they're going to teach English, just in case we have some rebels. But we're not going to have very much. It'll be able to fit on the stage, I think, the number of people we have. They have office buildings all over Washington, Department of Education. It's ridiculous. And look at the way we're rated. We're rated among the worst. We will have great schools that lead to great jobs and ultimately to great lives. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. Never would have done that. And I will keep men out of women's sports. Does that make sense? Last week they had a weightlifting contest, and a young woman was fantastic. She was a champion, and the record stood for about 18 years. And, they'd put like a quarter of an ounce on one side, quarter of an ounce, and boom, they'd try and do it. The record was beaten by like 150 pounds by a person that had the operation, went in, lifted the weight, and that's a record that's going to stand for a long time. But this is something where they were dealing in ounces, and the record was massively, just just massively shattered. It's so crazy to think about this. It's so crazy what's happening. You look at these swimming records, they're being obliterated. They're being obliterated. And to think that we have to actually justify this. Who would have thought 10 or 15 years ago that we have to say this? You have to just say, can't do it. You can't do it. And it's very demeaning to women, by the way. Very, very demeaning. And they have women afraid to even talk about it. You have these teams where the women get beaten so badly, and they're afraid to talk about it because it's not politically correct. But it's okay for me to talk about it, and I'll talk about it. And another thing, and probably number one on my list, who would believe that I have to say that I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation? Think of it, sexual mutilation in all 50 states. 10 years ago, who would have to say that? They mutilate our children, and we're not going to let that happen. But who would think that we have to say this? I will challenge California's depraved new laws that strip parents of parental rights and that encourage minors to be transported across state lines for sexual mutilation. And we will prosecute those involved in this sick California scheme for violating federal laws against kidnapping, sex trafficking, child abuse, and the deprivation of their civil rights. We're going to take care of it. It's crazy what's going on. It's crazy. It's not even believable. You have to mention these things, but you have to because this is what's happening in our country. I will once again appoint rock-solid conservative judges to do what they have to do in the mold of Justices Antonin Scalia, Samuel Alito, a great gentleman, and another great gentleman, Clarence Thomas. These are great people. And I will fully uphold and continue to uphold, they didn't gain an inch, our Second Amendment. There's tremendous pressure on our Second Amendment. I will bring back free speech in America, and I will secure the integrity of our elections. We have to secure the integrity of our elections. We have to do it. This is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. We want our country to be great again. We had a great country, and over the last fairly short period of time, really did badly with Obama, too, I have to tell you. We had to change a lot of things, but you take a look at what's happened to this country in a short period of time. Look at what's happened over the last 3 years. For nearly 250 years, our nation has been propelled by the power of prayer and guided by the hand of God in heaven. It was faith that led the pilgrims across the perilous seas of Plymouth Rock. They came to Plymouth Rock, and that was a long, arduous, and deadly journey. It was faith that moved our founding fathers to change history forever and proclaim that our rights to do not come from anywhere other than from our Creator. And it was unflinching faith that inspired generations of pastors and patriots, chaplains and soldiers, farmers, workers, laborers and pioneers to make America the greatest country in the history of the world. But now, we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in 50 years, where banks are collapsing and interest rates have gone absolutely through the roof. Likewise, we are a nation where energy costs have reached the highest in our history. We are no longer energy independent or energy dominant as we were just a few short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and many others for oil. Please, please, please help us. Joe Biden says, yet we have more liquid gold right under our feet than any other nation. We are a nation that just heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will be reducing their output of oil and substantially increasing the price, and met that threat by announcing that we will no longer be drilling for oil in large areas of Alaska. We are a nation that is consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal, yet everyone knows that the Green New Deal is fake and will lead to our country's destruction. We are a nation whose leaders are demanding all-electric cars, despite the fact that they can't go far, cost too much, and whose batteries are produced in China with materials only available in China, when an unlimited amount of gasoline is available inexpensively in the United States, but is not available in China. We are a nation that wants to force the trucking industry to buy all electric trucks, which would be like going back 50 years, because a diesel truck can go 2,000 miles on a tank of fuel, whereas an electric truck can only go 300 miles. That will destroy our supply chain for good. And now we're a nation that wants to make our great army tanks all electric, so that despite the fact that they will not be able to go very far either, fewer pollutants will be released into the air as we blast our way through enemy territory. And we are a nation also that wants to make our fighter jets with a green energy stamp, losing 15% efficiency, but allowing us to keep our enemy's atmosphere clean of pollutants, while we attempt to knock out all of their planes. We are a nation that ended oil exploration and production in the United States just as the price of oil reached an all-time high. What other country would do such a foolish thing? We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving behind dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. And we are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate a country, Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. It would never have happened with me as your president, and for 4 straight years, it didn't happen. And China and Taiwan are next. We are a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against opposing political parties like never before. There has never been anything like this. We've got a Federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public, and which offers $1 million to a writer of fiction about Donald Trump to lie and say it was fact, where Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was Russian disinformation, and the FBI knew it wasn't, but 51 intelligence agents said it was, and they knew it wasn't also, and a Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting, irregularities, and fraud. And we have a man who is totally corrupt and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war. Just think of it. We would be in World War II very quickly if we're going to be relying on this man, and far more devastating than any war. There will never be a war. If that happens, there will never be a war like this. It will obliterate everything there is, everybody. It will obliterate every country. We are a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are the true enemy of the people. They refuse to discuss the Biden crime family, but enjoy covering false indictments of Donald Trump who has done nothing wrong. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed and where crime is rampant and out of control like never before. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And less than 3 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, North Korea in check. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it. Now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the world. And perhaps most importantly, we are a nation that is no longer respected or listened to on the world stage. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. We are a nation that is hostile to liberty, freedom, and faith. We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, and whose deliveries are not coming, whose educational system is ranked at the very bottom of every single list. We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution, where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than formula for our beautiful little babies. A nation whose once revered airports are a dirty, crowded mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the plane won't leave, and they have no idea when they will. Where ticket prices have tripled, they don't have the pilots to fly the plane, they don't have qualified air controllers, and they just don't know what they're doing. We're a nation that has lost its confidence, it has lost its willpower, and it has lost its strength. We are a nation that, quite frankly, has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was God-fearing patriots like you who built this country, and it is God-fearing patriots like you who are going to save our country. 2024 is our final battle. With your support in this election, we are going to finish what we started. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will drain the swamp once and for all. One year from now, together, we will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House. And we will take back our country with a righteous and magnificent victory on Election Day 2024. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.